Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Admiral Roughead, Secretary Mabis, and General Amos. Thank you all for your service, long service to our country, distinguished service. Secretary Mabis, just want to clarify this. Under Secretary of Defense Carter's memo of February 16, 2011, directs you within 60 days to provide a plan for the cancellation of the Expeditionary Fighting Vehicle, including termination costs for the program and a plan to harvest technology from the program for future efforts. How do you plan on maximizing the return on taxpayer dollars already invested in the EFV program in terms of technology harvested and lessons learned?
Well, as you pointed out, Congressman, the directive tells us to harvest as much of those technologies as is possible. We would much prefer to use the monies remaining in the current contract to harvest that technology instead of paying termination fees. And so the plan that we're coming up with, to the very maximum extent possible, gets those technologies so that we can use those and use the lessons learned as we develop the next amphibious assault vehicle, as General Amos talked about earlier today.
Mr. Secretary, let me ask you a follow-up. How long do you anticipate it will be before you have a new amphibious tractor, a new EFV, or at initial operating capability?
Well, I absolutely agree with my Commandant.
Okay.
And but I want to add one thing here. We can build a new tracked amphibious assault vehicle in a reasonable amount of time. The EFV, had it been continued, would not have reached full operating capability until the mid-2020s. And we were going to have to take mitigating steps in terms of upgrading our AAVs, schlepping our AAVs, things like that, regardless of what amphibious assault vehicles that we were doing. And I think we ought to be able to build these things a lot quicker than we have historically. And as I said, I absolutely trust my Commandant in his estimate.
General Amos, any response?
Sir, I think the benefit of, I mean, it's regretful that we spent $3.2 billion over the last 2.5 decades, and that pains me. I won't belabor why I came to the decision whether I want to recommend to my Secretary. I won't do that here, but here's the good news out of this thing. We will take a lot of that technology, a lot of the capabilities that have been developed for the EFV, to include the remainder of this year. And I have every expectation that we'll be able to translate some, if not a large percentage of that, over to the amphibious combat vehicle. So it will not all be lost, to include the remainder of the monies for this year, sir.
Thank you, General Amos. Admiral Roughead, one of the Navy's core requirements is amphibious power projection. In a recent Navy Times article, you spoke about increasing the manning levels of our Navy's amphibious fleet to ensure these vessels are properly staffed to carry out their vital missions. Given the personnel challenges, the problematic first deployment of the LPD-17 USS San Antonio, and projection of 30 operational amphibious ships in FY 2012, what other steps are you taking in terms of shipbuilding, operational readiness assessments, and service life extensions to ensure that the nation retains its ability to project power with our amphibious fleet? How effective have efforts been to extend the service life of the USS Nassau and USS Peleliu?
Well, thank you, sir. A range of things we have underway. I talked about the manning. We leaned out some of these headquarters so I could put more sailors on ships so that the ships could be properly maintained. Sailors have the time now to go off to school to be trained in the skills they're going to need. We've moved maintenance back onto the waterfront again. That's also very helpful. We've put in place a structured, engineered life cycle plan to get the ships to the end of their service life. The other thing that we've done, and what we've been forced into by this continuing resolution, is some of those ships are getting ready to go into a midlife upgrade. And in order to make sure that I can get to that, those are some of the other, I'm canceling other availabilities to try to hang on to that midlife. Because if we don't get the midlife, then we have a real issue. So that's one aspect of it. So there's a whole collection of activities that we have in place to make sure that our ships get to the end of their service life. With regard to Nassau and Peleliu, I believe that we do have enough life to get them to where we now have them going out. But in any efforts to keep those ships for additional time, we will run into maintenance issues, and then also the manpower piece, because those sailors are destined to go on to the new force structure. So we have to keep that in mind as well. I do believe that we are through the woods on the LPD-17 quality issues. We have worked that very hard, and I'm pleased with how those ships are now starting to perform. But it's also a lesson to be learned that you don't take ships before they're finished, and that you really make sure that you're leaning on the quality early on in the construction process.
Thank you, Admiral Roughead. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.